Hey, this is David, Rich, and Caleb from HouseBarons.com, and today we're going to show you how to lay a tile floor. So here we go. Here we have the floor. We've got it partially laid, and we thought we'd bring you up to speed on this. It's a simple project that you can do, and by doing it, you save a ton of money. To start off with, there's a few things. You have to make sure that you get the right thin set, which is the cement that holds it to the floor. They make all different kinds, and it really depends on what your substrate is, what your floor is. We're using a large tile thin set because any tile longer than 15 inches on the side should have a thin set that goes with that. We're also using a polymer base thin set. It's for extra hold. To get started, the most important thing is to make sure you start with a very straight line. Not necessarily do you follow your wall, because walls have been known to be crooked. So you want to follow a nice straight line, and basically once you get a line that's evenly measured off the wall, then measure from that line to your opposing wall to make sure that yes, indeed, this room is square. And if it's not, when you get to the opposing wall, you may see an odd line, like a tile that goes from fat to skinny. And so you want to offset for that at the very beginning. But anyway, our room was pretty decently square. So you start with a line. You can use a pencil line and just measure it off. But it's a little bit more challenging to do it the old school way. Here's our laser level, and you can see. I'll just go ahead and turn it on. You can see that it makes a straight line, and it can make it vertically or horizontally or both. And what we do is, when we were first starting out, we laid it on the wall and then measured from this line to the wall, and then at the far end, that line to the other wall, just to make sure we've got something that's straight. After we get that done, we measure from this line to the opposing wall, and from that end to the opposing wall. And if everything looks generally straight, then you'll know that when you get finished with the job, you're not going to have tiles that look like there was a mistake. Once you start laying your tiles, you want to lay a whole line straight, and then you want to do two things to make sure that you're doing this correctly. You want your tiles to be level this way and then level this way, or flat this way, but you want it to be level this way. So that your one side's not high side and one side's low sided. You want them all to be level this way. This is another check that you do as you go down these lines. If you can see, this level is flat all the way across, and that means we're not going uphill and downhill with our mud. You want to consistently put the same amount of mud or thin set on the floor every single time. To do that, you put your thin set on your trowel. And here we're using a 1/2 by 1/2 inch trowel. And again, there's different sizes based on the size of your tile. And then you just come at a 45-degree angle and make these channels. And you want to go across the thinnest part of your tile. So not this way, because that's the long length of our tile, but this way. So that when you put your tile down and these ridges squish, this one and this one will fill that space, etc. And the air runs out the channel, out the side, so that you don't have any pockets of air in there. And then, so you want to make all your lines straight across the short side of your tile. Well, when we get to the end of a row here, we've got a tile here that just doesn't fit by about 3/4 of an inch. So Rich is going to go ahead and cut that for us. We're using a wet saw, and we have a whole video about that. There'll be links below for you to see that. All right, so Rich is, after he cut the tile, he's putting a real thin layer of thin set on the tile with his trowel. And it's called back buttering. And you basically should do this with all tiles to make sure you get good contact between the thin set on the floor and the thin set on the back of the tile. The only time we don't back butter is when we have little mosaic tiles like that shower, because it just creates a big jam up in between the tiles that you don't want to have to. There's all the thin set coming up between the tiles, so those are more displaced. Once you get that all buttered up, we'll go ahead and place. Hey, Avi, how you doing? We're gonna go ahead and place that tile right there. And that's about it. It's pretty straightforward. Mosquitoes are out. There he goes. And just place it there. And if you're real consistent on putting the same amount of thin set down on the floor and the same amount of thin set back buttering the tile, they'll all fit well. Okay, the last thing to do is put our spacers in, and the spacers we're using are for 1/8 inch tile. Yeah, move that tile this way some, towards me. We're using 1/8 inch spacers, and you can, that's a taste thing in general. I think most tile today are laid with thinner lines than thicker lines, but I've seen quarter inch spacers. And so you put them wherever they meet another tile. So you can see in this one, we'll put one there, and there's one there. And, oops. And that's it. And then it's really just a rinse and repeat. Now with these plank tiling, we're doing this we're making sure that no seams line up. So it looks like a regular wood floor would look. And that just means wherever you start, we're starting on the left-hand side here. Where you start, you make sure that that first tile doesn't line up with any tiles that came before it, and then none of the other tiles will line up. Okay, so one thing you want to make sure is that any thin set that's squeezed between the tiles, you take out with a screwdriver or a toothpick or something like that, because you want to make sure there's a place for the grout to go later on. So once you set your tile and you press down and it's all good, make sure to scrape out any of the remaining grout, any of the remaining thin set. And then later on when you grout it, the grout will have a place to go. Okay, so this is it. We finished the floor and it's all in and grouted. If you got any questions about grouting, we have another video, a previous video on grouting shower walls. Grouting tile is pretty much the same. There might be a little bit of difference between a mosaic and a floor tile, but it's basically putting the grout on there and going over at an angle so it's embedded, and then you wipe it off, sponge it off. But that's in another video. This was just to show you how to lay the tile, and as you can see, once it's done, it transforms the room. Hope this video helps when you decide to lay some tile. Don't be intimidated. It's a project that anyone can do, and it'll save you a ton of money. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Don't forget to click the little bell. Then you'll be notified by YouTube whenever we throw up a new video. And we've got lots more coming, so stay tuned. Thanks again for viewing. We'll see you next time.